What's up, everybody? It's me again, Preacher, and I just want to thank you for coming back to this third episode of Preacher's Corner. I am so excited for the guest that we have today. And so here we go, yet another episode of Preacher's Corner. Welcome to the corner. Here we go.
Can you believe it? Scorpio, we're back from number 3. Last week we had on my man 333. That was an awesome episode. If you didn't listen to it, I loved it. It was real nice, and he got a bunch of people connected on the West Coast to listen and get subscribed. So if you are listening today and you haven't listened to that episode, stop and then listen to his, and then come back to this one, and then come back to this one. But I'll probably put like one of those little like things up in the corner, like where it boop, pops out, and then you can click and go to the episode. It won't say poop. It won't say poop though. We don't want no poop. But today I am honored to have my dude James. I haven't seen this dude in like ages. I think I'm a good drummer, but this dude, I looked up to this dude growing up because he's like sick on the drums, and so I was he is. And so I was riding through one day, saw him, was telling him about this, and found out a little bit about what he's been doing since I saw him last. And so I was like, yo, you want to get on? And he said, definitely. And so without further ado, my man, James, how you doing? What's up? Let everybody know who you are.
My name is James Rawls. I do play drums. Actually, that's how Antoine and I met, and Preacher. I'm just happy to be here, man. I'm glad that we ran into each other. That was absolutely wild. We actually ran into each other in front of my old church. So that's even more just like what's going on right here. So that was beautiful. Just happy to be here.
Church on one side, Bernary on the other.
Literally.
So to keep
one little church.
So to keep things light, because we know sometimes when we're telling about addiction, it can get pretty deep. And so to keep things light and let people get to know you a little bit before they get to know you a little bit. What are 3 interesting facts about James Rawls that you want people to know?
Okay, man, that's gonna be tough because I'm super boring. I play drums. That's probably the thing that everyone knows about me. So I'm gonna actually leave that off to the side because, like, if you knew nothing else about me, you probably know that I'm a drummer. So it's just like whatever. So I am currently going for my teaching certification for elementary school, which is crazy. Every single day that I walk into a school and people say, "Hey, I want you to teach my 10-year-old," I'm just like, "You're crazy."
Yo, here's one question. So are you currently like working in school?
Yeah, I'm a substitute right now.
So have you had, and this is what would blow my mind, have you had kids of whose parents you went to school with?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Best way to get a kid to straighten up is be like, "Oh yeah, I know your dad personally," and they get real.
It's so weird. It's so weird.
I'm gonna text him right now if you don't stop.
No,
right now.
I will. Yes.
So we got interesting fact number 1. What's number 2?
Number 2, let's see. Currently I'm teaching myself discrete mathematics.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's
What is that?
what's the discrete mathematics?
So it's pretty much like a catch-all for like a lot of the math that we learned in high school but stuck at. And probably because most people, at least most of my teachers, are not best at teaching this stuff. The school system is a little rough. It's so I randomly decided, this was a topic that was it was hard for me in school. I was more of like a English and history and obviously music.
Yes, that was yep.
It's like I want to work my brain. I want to see if I can do better. So I started just like they got all kinds of courses on YouTube now, so you can teach this shit without even having to like go anywhere. Yeah,
That's interesting. Interesting.
Learn something new, because I didn't know that, because I had a problem with that. That was always my issue in school, was math. I mean, just like you, I was good at English. I was good at social studies and history and music. I was part of chorus class and gym, but every time math was always, that's what got me in trouble. Every report card was, oh, here comes math, and it was always a problem for me. That's awesome.
Nice, thank you, man.
Discrete math. Okay.
Yeah.
Number 3. What's the third interesting fact that you want people to know?
Third interesting fact is that I just started going to a Orthodox church.
Okay. How's that?
It's awesome. I love it. In fact, actually, dude that you and I grew up with, Adam Murphy, it's his parents' church.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like
they don't have drumming like the church you grew up in.
No. I mean, it's beautiful. There's a little bit of music. No one's breaking out any drums. There are no hard happening.
Now, for the people that really don't know, what's the difference between the Orthodox Church and I really don't know. So
in a full gospel, and what's the difference between church and church?
Oh yeah,
basically.
So Orthodoxy is like the first iteration of the church. Like we're talking like 100 or so years after like Christ died, starting to really come up with like the true like the first ideas of how they were going to worship. And so it came before the Roman Catholic Church. That's actually where the Roman Catholic Church comes from. And so it's like it has a lot of resemblances to the Roman Catholic Church. One of the biggest differences is there's no pope, and so everything's decentralized. So like the Orthodox Church doesn't answer to a pope or anything like that. And basically, every church is kind of its own entity. So let's say they're over here and they're preaching something heretical. Your church could essentially be like, hey, that's crazy, stop it. Like,
wow.
Yeah. So I really like that, because it's like, you can keep it real. Like everybody can keep each other in check, instead of it being like, someone can just say something crazy and they're just as valid as the next guy, like.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So it's almost like a mix between the modern church and the Catholic Church. In a way.
Yeah.
In a way, yeah.
They split. Well, the Roman Catholic Church split because they started being like, hey, I think it's it's okay to have a pope, and the Orthodox just like, nah, that's crazy, bro, get out of here. And so
get to stepping, bro.
Yeah, we kill Alex over here.
So,
but
I won't get too far into that, but yeah, so that's a new thing. I think I went to my 5th service today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for that.
For somebody that said they were boring, these are some interesting facts right now.
I'm telling you, right?
Whoa.
I'm boring, but I know this way of doing math, and I and here's all these interesting things about me.
Like okay, no, I'm boring. He made me sound like I'm boring on this end. I don't know what he's talking about.
Scorpio, you are boring.
I am.
But thank you for that. Now we know a little bit more about James, and so the next part of business is now diving into what this show is about. And I say it all the time. We were sitting there and we were like, hey, how do we get addiction, recovery, and mental health talked about? Because it's something that's not talked about. And so when I had seen James, I had told him about my time in addiction, and he was like, hey, I was in addiction too. And so then I told him about this podcast. So
amazing how that works.
Yeah. And that's why I think why I, for one, like why I'm all about transparency and talking to people about what I've been through and the struggle that I've had with addiction, because then other people can be like, that almost gives people like the freedom to be like, well, I mean, if he was transparent, I could be transparent too. And so before we dive into what it was like to be addicted, one, what was it that you were addicted to, and then what was life like before you really got into that addiction?
Totally. Alcohol was my addiction, and like not even top shelf alcohol, shitty gas station alcohol was my bro, suck. You can't even be a classy drunk. Just
It's like I went for the cheap shit. I was alright.
Oh yeah, like out the rum, Four Loko, just like, bro, you are a train wreck.
But that's the thing, like, especially a lot of the people that like Scorpio and I have interacted with, like, it's like not many people along Lyle Ave in Rochester are drinking top shelf stuff. It's a lot of 40s that cost like less than $5 so that you can buy 5 of them.
When I started drinking, I really didn't drink. I remember when I started drinking, it was on the cheaper end brands. Like when I started, it was like I remember playing beer pong parties and having 211s. Like I remember, yeah, getting fucked up. Like having steel reserve parties, and by the first game being like trash. like oh man. So I get it. It wasn't until I started getting older and kind of like seeing my grandfather and like my dad and stuff, and they were drinking like more top shelf liquors, and I was like, let me try these. And then like, oh, well, these are a little bit better, but I've never been a drinker. So for me, it was like, it's all right, But I've seen like a ton of people just be like, oh, I'm good. Like they're perfectly fine, like just drinking like, I'm alright drinking, like 211s all day, every day. Like, and I was like, how do you drink that?
Oh, easy. You just don't love yourself. It works out. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't. Oh
man. And this is why I love. He hasn't changed one bit. I love this kid. So like. I think one thing that's interesting about alcohol is it's unlike, like, you can't walk into a store and be like, hey, let me get a gram of crack. Like it's like there's certain drugs that people get addicted to where it's like, okay, I have to like go into some dark places to get it. And but with alcohol, it's like once you turn 21, it's like, yo, which store do I go to?
Yeah, so acceptable.
Yeah, and so like again, before we get into like what it was like while you were in it. What are some things? Just how was life like before? Like I know a little bit about how it was before, like, but just so people listening, how was life like before, and like really what led up to getting addicted?
I was really, really angry kid. Like super angry, super depressed. You know me, bro, you saw me wearing those crazy bondage wide leg pants and listening to death metal and stuff like that. That
was classic Jamie.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I still love metal. I'm not wearing the pants. That's crazy. When you're 30,
he hung them up.
Yeah.
Some things had to get hung up.
Well, I remember as a weird side note, when I decided in high school that I wasn't going to wear those pants anymore because I was wearing these like wide leg bondage pants, like with the weird bondage straps across the legs, which is just dumb. And I went to the boys' bathroom in high school, and someone had pissed all over the floor, and I didn't realize it until it was too late, and my pants mopped up the piss.
Oh!
The bottom of my pants were covered, and I was like, this is it. This is
oh no. It's so gross.
And like they weren't gonna let me go home, so I had to do the rest of the day. It was like noon, and so I had to go until 2:30 smelling like someone else's piss. Never again. I'm gonna be the most straight-laced, khaki-wearing nigga like for the rest of my life. Never again.
And you know what? And you know what's funny? What's funny is I remember when he went from big old bottom pants to straight legs, and now I know the backstory of why.
Traumatized, bro. I got
because that's not something you just walk into band like, hey guys, today I mopped up a whole floor.
What's that smell?
Because check it, ask them, the drummers that we had, we would have dogged on them so bad.
So bad.
If I would have known that, I would not have let you live it down.
Oh my god, I can't.
People do each other. We loved each other, but we
did. We were, and then all of the band would have known.
Yeah, I would have been like, but
Mr. Palumbo would have found out. Everybody.
You're crying right now. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, man. I was angry, bro. I was really angry. Like, like my dad wasn't there. Like that classic, being black story. Like dad wasn't there. Mom was having to, do both, trying to be a mother and a father.
And she did a lot too.
Yeah.
Just from what I know, like your mom was like heavily involved, like church and band, helping out for band, and then it doesn't help if we needed to ride. We were like, Miss Rose, and we all like 10 people would hop in their car.
Yeah. That was probably one of the biggest things that has really helped now is like having my mom in my corner. But like at the time, man, I was mad at her too, like she stressed out and tired, so like she's gonna have her bad moments, and like when you're a kid you don't understand, you're not compassionate to that. You're not like, oh well, she's going through it. You're just like, no, forget that. Why'd you yell at me? Why can't I go do whatever the hell I want to do? Why can't I, like stay out late? Like it's very me, which is normal for a kid.
Yeah.
Bro, I was just angry, and music was the outlet. Music was the outlet. Martial arts was the outlet.
Cool.
But also, getting into fights was an outlet. Using what I learned in karate for evil.
Oh, you think it's gay?
Oh yeah. If I had somebody that I didn't like, I couldn't wait to try the new kick I just learned on this nigga. I was like, I can't wait to him again. I'm gonna throw that spin kick. He's out of here.
Like, come here, stand right there. Yep, right there, right there.
I'm a roundhouse your head off right now.
So,
Mortal Kombat. That shit did not work.
so I know you went to Fredonia, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So you went to Fredonia, and I know you were working at Wegmans and everything. So when did? Because I remember even before I joined the army, I remember walking in Wegmans and us talking a little bit. When did you begin like to transition to like? Because I'm sure you before you became addicted, it was like, okay, I'm having a drink here, having a drink there. But when did it like? When did you realize like there's a problem and I'm addicted?
Well, so a funny thing, man, is I didn't drink at all as a kid. Like I was around my friends who were drinking, and having like I would literally be sitting on the couch at the party, right in the middle of like the circle where they're passing a J and drinking, and I'm not doing any of it.
Yeah.
And, whatever. And that kind of continued into most of college. It wasn't until sophomore year that I had my first sip of beer. It was actually a Guinness. And because I was out with this dude from Buffalo who was half Irish and half German. So of course he's just like, bro, your first drink has got to be Guinness. And so I took a sip of this and I was like, why the hell would anybody drink this shit? This is gross. Your people are gross for drinking it.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I was just crazy.
Like, I don't know who made this, but you're horrible, your people are horrible. Like, everyone's horrible, whoever made this.
No offense to people who drink Guinness.
Ireland.
But you're gross.
But yeah, I was, so that I had my first sip, and I was like, I don't understand why anybody would want this. And then I think maybe it was a couple months after that, some guys that I was living with in college were getting ready to go to a party, and they had these giant handles of old granddad whiskey. And so I was just like, all right, let me try it out. It's like that awful Canadian whiskey, because that's what you get when you're that close to the border. Like, you're gonna get that bottom of the shelf Canadian whiskey that's like $20 for the giant, like a liter of it, like
that. Bye-bye.
Oh yeah. You could get absolutely wasted on your allowance, and and so I had a little bit of that, and I think we went crazy, bro. We ended up tearing our shirts off and running across the quad, and just like acting crazy. Like at nighttime, we were like yelling and acting crazy. It was like the first time that I felt like real happy and real free.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me, of course,
Yeah.
for all the wrong reasons, bro. All the wrong reasons. And so that was the start to, and also being in a culture, especially in colleges, like that's accepted. Like people act like you didn't get the college experience if you aren't really absolutely rip wasted, every weekend at the very least, and having these crazy stories about drinking. And so that's how it got started. It was just like the socially acceptable, hey, we get messed up on Friday and Saturday, and then that turns into, thirsty Thursday. So now we get messed up on Thursday.
And then messed up Monday.
And then
Tipsy Tuesday.
Oh yeah. Well, no, and that's the thing is like you got all these things, like you said, is socially acceptable, right? So you got all these things that anchor addiction. So I remember the local bar had dollar well drinks on Wednesday. So now I gotta go get messed up on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and it just goes on and on. And next thing you know, always wasted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I think what's interesting because last week when we were talking to 333, he brought up. I don't know if you watched that episode or not, but we were talking. We were talking about the feeling that you get, that first high that everybody's chasing, and that's the one thing I've always thought about. Like alcohol is like I've always wondered like what keeps bringing people back, and it's the same. It's still the same thing. It's that first feeling that you get, like you said, that was the first time you felt like free and joyous and happy, like, and that's the same when you talk to every addict. Like, well, why did you go back? Well, because that first high, I felt free, I felt joy. Like when I explained the first time I got high, like I for once felt the peace that I was looking for. And so I just think it's real interesting that even with something that's so easily accessible, once you turn a certain age, you still like in excess, like still get that feeling, and it still brings you back each time. And so after you start, when did you realize, like as you're like, okay, there's going to be a weekend thing, and now you're like, okay, well, I mean, it's Monday, let me pick it up today too. Like when did you realize, and like what made it click, like, man, I'm like in this, and like how often were you doing it? Like I'm sure every day, but like how often in the day, and then when did you think like, oh man, I'm in this addiction?
Yeah, like when did it progress?
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of funny. Well, it's not funny at all. But
He's like, it's not funny at all.
it's like kids don't do drugs. It's not funny at all. Stop laughing. But it's one of those things where it's hard to track because how socially acceptable it was. So, like, I didn't realize it became a progression as much as I realized, like, when it started to really like affect like stuff terrible. I think that's when it started to be like a wake up call. So that was like shortly after college, after I'd already, we drank all the time. We're getting beers at night all the time, and somehow I made it through college. I still look back at that. I'm like, dude, how did I even get the grades to get out? But I did. But at the time, like, it's hard to see the progression because it's so social. For most of college, I was living with a bunch of musicians. And all a bunch of degenerate musicians. Like we're all drinking like crazy. We're chain smoking. We're like, we were actually rarely smoking weed. Like we were, every once in a while you get acid or shrooms or blow from somebody. Like, but that was such a background to drinking is the main event, and that what everyone is doing. So it's like it was hard to progression because it's so socially acceptable that you can't tell that it's an issue. It's just Thursday, it's whatever. And then I think when I really realized it was like getting out of college. I don't know what I'm trying to do, but we still got like that type of college social setting. A lot of my friends are slightly younger, so they're in college, so we're continuing that, and it's whatever. And I think I didn't really start to realize it until I'm working at Wegmans, like you mentioned. I'm working at Wegmans, and I'm like, I'm like showing up at work hungover, showing up at work still a little drunk. I'm like not able to, because I love going to the gym too. Like, I'm missing gym sessions because I'm too hungover. I'm like, I'm gonna throw up if I try to bench press anything right now. Like, I can't throw up in the gym, bro. Like, that's crazy. No one's gonna believe that you like pushing yourself when there's only 135 on the bar. No, you're
He's a liar. He's a liar.
What is it? So,
what is he on?
So that's I think that's when I started to kind of, and especially with music, bro. Like you know me as a drummer, you know I love drums. Like, I started to like realize like that I would play these shows, and I would start messing up, bro. Like, I would start dropping beats, and I'm like, bro, that's not like me. Like, that's, but like, it was whatever. Like, I'm still drinking, I'm still practicing, but I'm practicing drunk.
Yeah.
So I'm productive when I'm practicing. Because like the thing about being an alcoholic, like yeah, I had all that energy the first time that I drank, but as you progress, you start to become like the low, depressed, low energy drunk, and so I don't even have the energy to focus to actually be productive in practice. So I'm doing maybe an exercise for like 10 minutes, and now I'm just tired and just laying on my nothing.
Yeah.
And so that's what I started to, I don't know, man. So
that's real interesting that like when it's the progression of it, because again, it's socially acceptable to go have a drink. Like, I mean, it's football season now. How many households do you know where the dad or like his buddies or the family like will sit down and watch a game while they have a beer next to them? Like, it's, or you go out to dinner and you order a glass of wine, or you order a beer if you go to like have a burger or something. Like, it's so socially acceptable that like, one thing I got from that is that like, unlike crack, where it took me one time, and before that I had never dabbled in it or anything, and it was just one hit and boom. And it's not like that with alcohol, it seems, because you can sit there and do it on Friday and then be like, I'm good, and like, or sit and have a glass of wine, and then eventually you start noticing like, and what I think is interesting again is that as it begins to like really take precedence in your life, it starts to, just like every other addiction, starts to take away things that you love.
Well, keep going.
Go ahead. And it really starts to take away that, so that it is number one in your life.
Yeah, because it's funny, because it's like, as many people as I've talked to throughout my recovery, as I slowly see, you said that as time went on, you were dabbling into other things. I know a lot of people that at first they didn't even know alcohol was their problem. Because they were, like, they were addicted to crack, they were addicted to heroin. They thought that was their main issue, but underlining afterwards, they realized, no, that's not the issue. It was alcohol the whole time. But because your addiction is so out of control, you're like, it can't be alcohol. That's not it. It's got to be these other ones, because you've now added on top of it, because it's a way of life, because it's so socially acceptable, because it's okay. It's like smoking cigarettes. Smoking cigarettes will kill you, but no one has a problem with you buying them. Now, back when we were growing up as kids, they were advertising it. Now it's a little bit more of a problem now. But back in the day, you could smoke in restaurants, you could do whatever you want. Now it seems to be a little bit more of an issue, because lung cancer and people are starting to die because of these. So it's like, okay, it's a little bit different. But there was never an issue with it back in the day. The same thing goes with alcohol. That was used to be like your main thing. Most shows, like TV shows, used to advertise it. Like regular sitcom TV shows would like literally like encourage, it'd be the natural thing to watch. The dad comes home, just like Preacher said. Then dad would come home, they crack a beer open, he sit down on the couch, he talks to the family, but he's drinking the whole time. Mm-hmm. Now you see that and you be like, yo, this motherfucker's a fucking alcoholic.
We just look at like The Simpsons. Homer Simpson is always drinking.
Yeah. And it's a funny side note, because one thing that I do remember very vividly, especially after college, so I had a friend that I used to play in a band with. I actually used to play in 2 bands with him, and because both of us ended up having an alcohol problem, and one thing that I do remember is that we really romanticized the addiction to alcohol as part of like, this is what it's like to be a musician. Every musician is troubled and emotional and basically a train wreck and addicted to something, and depressed and blah 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 blah. And it was kind of, that's part the aesthetic. You will see that like in society, like, we have some of those same ideas about musicians in general. Like when a musician, gets arrested for doing drugs, no one even bats an eye, like they're just like, yeah, that's what musicians do. That's what it means to be.
Well, I just think of like Travis Barker. Like, yeah. Everybody, as soon as you hear like famous drummer who's like on drugs all the time, you think Travis Barker. He's like the poster child. Oh, yeah. And it's almost like it's acceptable. Like, or we think of Snoop Dogg and like, oh well, I mean, he's a rapper. He's smoking weed. What? Like,
yeah.
Like, no, this dude is addicted.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he can't stop. That's not cute. Don't encourage that. But that is how it is. And there's also this fear within like the community with musicians. There's this fear that if you stop doing whatever substances you're doing, if you stop, you will lose all creativity. Like
I can see that. Yeah.
That substance, your creative spark, and if you don't have that, you will instantly go to zero. You can't write music anymore. Mm-hmm. For being a drummer, I can't come up with these cool creative ideas and fills and whatnot. And so there's a lot of fear behind that within the music industry. I can tell you that.
Well, I think of like Eminem. Like, I'm a huge Eminem fan, and I think for a little bit there may be like a fall off, because you're having to retrain your whole mind. And if you notice, like, even when he ended up getting clean, his music did take a plunge for a little bit.
Just talking about
and it's because he had to readjust his entire mind, because he was used to making music while he was high and off these pills, but then he had to start doing music sober. Yeah. But then if you look at his music now compared to his music then, I think it may, some people may say he's gone down, but I think lyrically he's gone up, and just and I think it's because addiction, it does, like, while you may think like, oh, it's opening up my mind, it's really holding you back at times. And so
I learned that. I learned that in my classes, like, because I go to outpatient classes and stuff like that, and they teach you that, like, your addiction works. When you're in addiction, you don't really see how it affects your brain, and you don't think about it, because I mean, who the hell does? But your brain really, like, it's a certain way, that your brain works. And like when you start adding, chemicals to it that aren't really for your body, your mind really can't handle it. So like you start giving yourself like that euphoria feeling too much. You start giving that your mind that it constantly. That's why like alcoholics get the shakes. That's why, as a heroin addict, we get, we start detoxing and we start, sweating bad and we're in constant pain. It's because that's not really us. That's your mind really like sending like signals to the rest of your body, like, yo, like, what the fuck? Like, where is what you were giving me? Like, what the fuck is going on?
It's kind of, you start becoming dependent on it
Exactly.
to survive.
Yeah,
You need it.
Mm-hmm.
And so you touched on a little bit, like as you started, you began to realize there was a problem when you started, like, oh man, my fills aren't as nice as they were. I'm messing up here or there. And so I know one thing that I talk about in group and things like that is loss. And so as far as your addiction, what kind of things? Because again, it's socially acceptable to drink, and so a lot of people, I'm sure there's a level of even being in addiction to alcohol where you haven't burnt bridges yet, but then once you start, like, it starts progressing, then relationships, because it's an addiction, and so eventually it's going to start burning bridges. When did you realize, like, okay, not only is it now affecting just what I'm doing and what I love, but now it's affecting the people that I love, and now I'm starting to hurt these people that I've loved?
Totally. Man, I it was definitely a little bit later, because there's like that grace period after college where like no one expects you to do shit anyway, so they're like whatever, like you have no idea what you're doing, and you probably still got terrible no one really cares. They're kind of giving you a little bit of a nudge, like, yeah, get it together, but like it's whatever. It was after that, definitely relationship took a hard hit. And like, since I'm on this podcast, I am not gonna sugarcoat anything. I became an absolute shithead in relationships, cheating on women, and just being just whatever. And what's kind of funny is there was a disconnect, right? There was a I think when you are already doing something where you are so addicted to the instant gratification and the pleasure of something, as in the drinking, it's that much easier to also justify instant gratification in other areas. So you're just like, you're like, what? She threw it at me. So like, and you're just like, you're just floating through life. And so, yeah, lots of relationship drama, which, it got worse when, you're getting into, as you're getting older, you're getting into relationships with for me, getting relationships with women who have kids. So now you're in front of kids being a shithead.
Yeah.
And that type of stuff is super tough. I feel like, it's hard for me to tell what opportunities that I may have lost out on. There was a time early on, because I moved to Nashville for a little bit, and before Nashville, I was substitute teaching for like a year, and I definitely I lost out on money, because of course I'd wake up sometimes, I'd be hungover, and they called me, this back when I was doing so there's two different types of substitute teaching now. But at the time, it was just they call you in the morning if they need you. And so I'm hungover and I get a phone call at 6 in the morning. What do you think I'm doing? I'm not going. I'm not
Yeah.
going. I'm
Yeah, I'm not going.
I'm still wasted. And
Yeah.
so it was a lot of that. It was a lot of like, you got to go on an apology tour the next day because of shit you did the night before when you were wasted. And I was never a dude who blacked out, so I didn't lose memory. It was just, it was Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type shit. So it's like I would wake up the next day and remember like very vividly what Mr. Hyde did. And I'm like, oh shit, like I gotta apologize to people, or I've got things that I did that now I've gotta, I feel shame and guilt for that, I'm waiting for time to kind of dampen the memory of that so I can go on living, because like I don't want to talk to people about it, but I'm also like I'm getting further depressed. I hate myself. Like I definitely want to end myself, bro. Like which that was always a thing. Even when I was a kid, I had very depressed, suicidal ideation thoughts. But man, when I was drinking, when it really got bad, way worse. Way worse. Definitely like getting closer to like actually acting on that. So yeah, losing opportunities, losing relationships, losing my right to drive. That was great. I actually, in Nashville, I got my license back. Oh no. That was during the pandemic. Actually, that was great. Coming back to the state and having to do that, they were just like, "Hey, you owe us money, and we're taking your shit, and you got to do all this stuff all over again."
Wow.
So being in your 30s and you got to go do the driver's test next to some kid that's 16, 17 is crazy. It is.
That kind of sucks.
Oh yeah, but I deserved it, man. Like I was wilding out, and thankfully, when I caught my DUI, like I wasn't super gone, and so it wasn't, because like here where I'm at in Ontario County, the worst place in my opinion, at least in New York State, the worst place to get a DWI, because they've got that addition, the Leandra's law, because of that one lady who she was drunk with her kid in the car, crashed the car, and the kid died. And made that law where if you get caught with a DWI and you got a kid in the car, it's immediately a felony. No questions, not even a conversation. But what a lot of people don't know is that also, if you don't have a kid in the car, Leandra's law also changed how things go. So I caught my DUI at the same time that one of my friends here caught hers, and she got a slap on the wrist and was back driving in 3 months. But different county, I lost my license for a year, had to pay like 3 G's. Like had to go to the victim impact panel, and you gotta the eye who's just like, hey, my kid died because of some asshole like you.
Wow.
Your head, like it was
that's intense.
Oh yeah, it was really intense. And just but I think that the hardest thing was just the way I treat people, bro. Like my last girlfriend, man, like thank God she like stuck with me, for quite a long time. We're not together now, but like, bro, she stuck with me through me being the worst. I had moments like shortly before I went to AA, where I would get so angry at her, and I would talk to her like a dog. I'm not even going to sugar. I would talk to her like a dog, bro. I would yell at her. I would yell at her, or if I couldn't yell, and like we were out, you know, at like a actually I remember the night before I went to AA, we're out at a restaurant, at a sushi restaurant, and I'm keeping my voice down, but I am talking mean. I am saying some shit. Like I can't even remember what I was pissed about, but I was just devious, and it's stuff like that like I look back on. That's the stuff that really fucked me up. Like that's the type of stuff that drove me to eventually go to A, because I could see, because I'm not a guy who blacks out, I could see very clearly, even sometimes the night of that I'm drinking, if I even had like an hour or two where I was adding more alcohol on top, I get enough of a space of lucidity to be like, bro, what the hell did you just do?
Yeah.
And I felt so much shame, so much guilt, so much self-hatred. Yeah, that shit was the worst.
That, and I think that's crazy. Just it's interesting seeing having been addicted to crack, and then even knowing like Scorpio, who was addicted to crack and heroin. Like it's interesting seeing, because I know how it is for us, but to see from the alcohol side, it's the same thing. You begin to do things that you never thought you would do. Like I know for me, I would always we'd be driving by a house and they'd be like, "Yo, let's pick up that package from the porch," and I'd be like, "We are not picking up packages from someone's porch." But eventually, or like, "Oh, let's stop at this dumpster and grab." There was one dumpster at Food Link that they'd want to go to, and eventually I'm like, "Yeah, let's go to the dumpster, or let's go boost from the store." And at first I'm like, "Nah, we can get money some other way." But then once people start telling you no to get money, now you need to start finding a way to get money, and so you slowly begin to
compromise.
The things that compromise yourself, the things that you once were like, you know what, no, I'm not going to do that. You, as the addiction continues, you begin to start like, well, you know what, I need to do this now, or you don't even think about it at times. Like you said, with how you used to treat women, like I remember all day we were treating women like that, like, because in my eyes, the women that were on the street with me were just prostitutes.
Yeah.
So they're already degrading themselves. So I mean, why can't I degrade them? Like,
I can agree with you on that too. I can agree on that too, because I remember this one very vividly. Like, now I am not an aggressive person at all. You could ask Preacher, I am far from aggressive. And I remember my last like interaction with my fiance that I'm still with now, like, and I even had to apologize to her like later on. But I remember this one night after you had left, Preacher, like I think you had just left, and there was this one night and we were both like sick, and like she had like a little bit of her shit left, and she's sitting on the corner, and like it was hers, clearly hers, right? So she ends up and she's about to smoke it or something, and like, yo, something happened. Like I snapped, no reason, no fucking reason at all. I snapped, son, and like almost hit her, and I was just like, what? Like I had to catch myself, because I was like, what the fuck? Like, and then I like had to apologize later on. Like I had to go walk off and shit, because I could not believe like what was going through my head. And then like later on, I had to like, hey, you know, I'm sorry. Like, you know, like what the fuck was wrong with me?
Well, I remember all they would argue at times, like, yeah, crazy arguments. And I remember over nothing. And I remember sitting there multiple times saying like, yo, you guys would be amazing together if it wasn't for this crack. And I knew that. I knew that. But still, I'd feed them the crack, and I'd feed myself the crack.
Yeah.
And I knew, like, the things that we're doing, we're not supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And I know it's because of this drug, but I kept doing what I was doing, which is crazy. Just like you said, there were times where you would have the hour to be like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
But then you go like, oh, instead of drink, hey.
Yeah.
Like, and so I just think it's crazy just to see the similarity, and it's because it's a mind altering substance. Like, it doesn't matter what it is, as long as it is altering your mind, you start doing these things that you didn't expect to do. And so you touched on going to AA and everything, and so eventually that time came where you're like, what the fuck am I doing? I need to get off this. And so as we come up to the end, what has life been like as after you went to AA for the first time and you started saying, okay, you know what, I need to start putting things back together, start rebuilding things. What has life looked like after addiction, as far as like cravings and like just how you're doing after the fact?
Well, so one thing that I try to always kind of put out there when anyone asks me about it is that I think that I got really lucky in terms of quitting drinking. And I say that because, and like, you know, this is going to be a little woo-woo, but like, I'm just going to put it out there. And I tell people I'm very honest about it, and you know, you can think what you want about it, but it is what it is. So the way that I ended up quitting was basically, so I went to AA, got in those rooms with good people in Nashville, and I tried like the usual thing that a lot of alcoholics do, which is you try moderation. I'm like, okay, I'll just go back to just drinking on the weekends. Nah, you know, it was like weekend rolls into Monday. Now Monday is part of the weekend now. So yeah, just goofy stuff. You know, like you just lie to yourself. But I remember, like, just to cut straight to it, I remember one night I had drank again, and my girlfriend at the time, she traveled for work, and so she was out of town, and I'm hanging out with the dog, and I'm just bottom of the barrel, man. I went and grabbed, you know, like she drinks for like actually for the taste. She's one of those good people. So she would have, yeah, exactly, for sure. And so she would have good shit in the house. And so I got super drunk on like good shit, but I also, of course, went and got my standby Four Loko. But I was depressed, and I knew I'd fucked up. You know, I was like, hey, you know, because now all I'm doing is I'm hiding it. She's gone, and so now it's like wasted. I was working at a bar at the time, and I knew I had to go there in like 2 days. I had 2 days off randomly, and I was watching some show that we used to always watch together, Top Chef, and there was a dude on there who was an amazing chef. I actually talked to him and told him the story, and it was a really really cool dude. Shout out to Chris. I think it's Abrams or Abraham. And there was an episode where they had to pair food with alcohol, and so he went into his whole story about how, like, I can't taste the alcohol because I had a problem with it. And I don't know what happened. The way I put it is simply, it was God, man. Something about what he said just hit. And I felt we were in the small 1-bedroom apartment, and I felt something like a wind pass by me from behind me to my left, pass by me and go out the door. And ever since that moment, like I had no cravings. No
That's
cravings.
amazing.
That's
amazing.
I knew exactly what it was. I knew it was God.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get emotional about it, like, and so I'd like have
Of
to
course.
abbreviate the story. But like in dead serious, I continued working at a bar where at that bar we used to drink on shift, and I continued working at that bar for like 2 months, no drinking.
Wow.
Offering me drinks. People were trying to trick me into drinking because, once again, socially acceptable. So they're just like, oh, no, definitely. What do you talk about? You're not drinking. Have a drink. And I'm like, nah, bro. I'm not doing it. And so, I say that to say that, like, I got lucky in some respects because I think that moment was a freebie. Now, the parts that came after it, which I like to say that I think for a lot of alcoholics, you think alcohol is the problem, and so you quit drinking, but what you realize is that alcohol is not, like, it's a problem for sure, but all it did was make you blind to the fact that you've been living in a room full of trash. You had a clothespin on. Alcohol is a clothespin.
That's a good way to put it. I like that.
Yeah. You stop drinking, and all of a sudden the clothespin comes off, and you realize that you've been living with a pizza box that's been there for 5 years, and all kinds of trash and whatnot on the ground, and now you've got to fix your shit, or you're going to still be a shithead.
Absolutely.
That, like, even after drinking, like, I had to fight with my shithead tendencies, and I had to dig into a lot of my stuff. I had to forgive my dad for not being there. I had to forgive my mother for not being there in the way that I wanted her to be there. Now we have a wonderful relationship,
That's awesome.
Yeah, man. But I had to make amends. I had to, like, go to friends and be like, dude, like, I'm sorry. I was just gone, and it's been like, I don't know if I want to call it a struggle as much as it's just been it's humbling, because you gotta go through stuff that is very humbling. You gotta take a road test in your mid-30s around a bunch of 17-year-olds. And people are looking at you. They know why you're there. The woman who gave me the test the first time, she knew why I was there. And that's why she had that funky energy. I failed the first test and had to go back. But, like, people know, and there's lots of shame and there's lots of guilt, and you have got to. That's the main stuff that you got to deal with. You got to deal with the quote unquote apology tour.
I one thing that so I do a group on Thursdays and Fridays at the VA, and one thing the lady who runs it, she calls it the wreckage of our past, and so it's interesting that, like, and again it's not just one substance. I'm beginning to realize, like, it's any addiction. Once you come out of it, because a lot of us don't like, we get into this addiction because we notice it begins to cover over that pain that we've felt for years. And I talked about it last week. Like, I felt all this pain, and the first time I took that hit, I felt peace from all that pain. And so then once we get off addiction, not only do we have all this crap that we caused while we were addicted, but we still have to deal with the shit that was before that led us to getting addicted. And now we don't, like, when we were addicted, we didn't have to deal with it. And when it came up, we didn't have to think about it because we went to whatever substance it was. But now we have to deal with it, because we know if I don't deal with it, I'm 10 seconds away from going back to it. And now we're having to deal with it without the addiction, and it sucks. It sucks.
Yeah.
like I remember one time because my wife and I, we are at each other's throats, and my kids don't really want to talk to me. My parents don't really want to talk to me. And I remember one time it was Memorial Day, and I had asked my parents if I could go there, and they said, "We're not ready for you to come." And I remember thinking, like, when I was in my addiction, my parents didn't want to talk to me, and I went and I was able to really cope with it because with this drug. But now that I'm out of addiction, my parents still don't want to talk to me, and now I have to deal with the pain myself. And for a split second, my mind was like, well, bro, just go back to addiction, like, because then it's easier to cope with. But then I was like, no, it's because of you that I can't talk to my parents. So like, and so I just think it's crazy that we sit here and like we go to this addiction because of the things that we've been through, but now outside of addiction, and that's why one reason why I wanted to start this podcast, to let people see, like, yo, this is what we're going through. Like we're putting things back together and we're finding joy in things, but at the end of the day, we have to deal with this pain at some point, and that's why you see people in recovery that are part of this group and that group and this therapist, because it's our way of saying, like, okay, this is how I'm going to deal with that shit that I caused.
Because it's not easy. It's not an easy road, like, by none. You know, and everybody, you know, there's so many people that don't understand addiction. They'll sit there and be like, I just don't understand why this is so hard for you. Why is it so hard? That's because you don't understand. That's why. You don't understand addiction, period, because you don't have that issue. For some people, it's cool. You know, it's cool that you can just, you know, have one drink and go on about your day and not have any issue. It's cool that, you know, you could, you know, take a line of Coke and go on about your day and not have an issue. But for some people, that's not how that works. I know if I have fucking Coke lit on the table, man, we going all out. Let me tell you. It's a party. And like, it's it, but there's other ways to cope. And it's funny you said that, because, you know, preacher, that's, you know, what they teach us in my class. That's your addiction outside in the parking lot doing push-ups. That's exactly what that is, because in the 2 seconds while you sitting there and you think you got your addiction, you know, handled, that's your addiction still outside. Like, all right, man, I'm waiting for you. When you ready, I got you. Because when you weak, I'm gonna be right there waiting for you. Oh, what happened? You broke up with your girl? Don't worry, son. Come over here to this side. I got you. Oh, what happened? You lost your job? Don't worry. We can fix that right now. Meanwhile, the whole reason why you got girl troubles, the whole reason why you got job troubles and family troubles is because of that shit. That's why you building right now. And it's like, it's unfortunate that's how that go. That's why we have to, that's like you said, that's why the podcast is here. That's why we go through what we go through, because if you don't sit and talk about it, if you don't deal with it, it just keep building and building and building. And next thing you know, that's how relapse happen, and that's how relapse continues. And then you just like, the fuck relapse. I'm just doing it now. I'm not even gonna worry about it no more. And that's how people get stuck. How many people do we still see in active addiction that they were like, yeah, I tried the sobriety thing. Nigga, you ain't try it. You gave up. That's what you did. You didn't try it. You said you gave up on it. That's what happened. And now you're an active user again. That's what happened. You know, and it's unfortunate to see them like that, because the odds that you coming back to this end are pretty slim now. Like, and it's sad to see that. Real sad.
But yeah, you said a lot of good things, and I think whoever may be listening, like, you might want to play it back twice and a couple times just to hear the stuff. And so one thing I like to do is, because in the road of recovery, we hear a lot of different things. And so as we close up here, if you could tell everybody that's listening one piece of wisdom that you really want them to walk away with, what do you want them to know?
So, as a little bit of a preface, in AA, there are two different kinds of alcoholics, two main categories. There's the problem drinker, which is me, and there's the hardcore alcoholics. And you would be shocked. I actually, the very first night that I went to AA, I was shocked. Like, I went there and I cried my eyes out and I told my little sob story, and everyone was just, if you ever been to AA, you get to the end of your story and they're just like, thanks for sharing, James. And which is beautiful. I love that moment where you're just like, wait, no one's gonna call me a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And all that, I should have told them.
Because we're all pieces of shit.
Yeah,
we're all there.
Everyone can say that. But then you hear some of the hardcore alcoholic stories, and you're just like, oh shit, wow, okay, all right.
And that's why they don't call you a piece of shit.
Yeah, exactly, because they're just like, bruh, I did the crazy, whatever.
They're like, I wish that's all I did.
Like, I wish that was it.
They're just like, I'm sober now, and I yell at my girlfriend. It's perfectly fine. But the piece of advice that I would give, specifically for problem drinkers, because I think that is actually a huge problem in this country that people don't talk about because they don't understand what a problem drinker is. And so what I would say, very basically, is that it's a problem when you say it's a problem. When you've decided inside yourself that's a problem, it's a problem. And the reason why a problem drinker needs to hear that is because the way I was going at the time, I still had plenty of runway left before one would have said, you got a problem, my nigga.
Wow.
I still have plenty of space. DWI, plenty of people had that. In fact, when I went to court, the judge told me, oh, bro, I had a DWI too, is whatever. Like, yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
The officer told me that he had a DW. Like,
wow.
Was what, those types of things or whatever. Yelling at your girlfriend, I see people do that, like yell at their baby mama like a dog on the way to work at the school, and I see them do this in front of their kid. Like,
yeah.
These types of things, a lot of the things that the problem drinker runs into, people don't look at that and go, oh dude, like, you got a problem. Oh, you missed gym. Oh, your drumming is starting to suffer. Oh, boo-hoo. Like, you're fine. Let's go to the bar.
Wow.
And so, specifically, I feel as though problem drinkers need to hear that it is a problem when you have decided inside of yourself that it's a problem. So when you feel inside of yourself, man, I'm messing up, that is real. And don't let anybody tell you that it's not real. It's real.
See, and that goes into that socially acceptable stuff.
Yeah.
Like you said, everybody's doing it. Like, and so it's a longer fuse to be like, yo, this bro has a problem, and it's usually not until you're on the street passed out drunk, and even that at times is acceptable. How many times do you see like a college kid pass out and people are like, stupid college kid?
Yeah,
and it's like, and it's sad because I almost look at being addicted to alcohol as one of those, like, it's almost like as society we're letting alcoholics down, because with crack, if you're passed out on the street because you just took heroin and you're nodding off, people look at you first time and say, yo, this person needs help. Mm-hmm. But if you're passed out drunk, people are like, get him up and let him sleep it off. Mm-hmm. Like, and it's almost like we're letting you guys down, like. And so I thank you for coming on here, and like, because you're our first person that has been addicted to alcohol, and like even me being an addict to this crack, like I looked at alcohol as like, oh well, like it's not like, yes, it's an addiction, but it's not like not as bad as crack, but like and that's almost that culturally acceptable lie. Like, it was Sunday night. Like, we record on Sunday. It's Sunday night. You know how many people had a drink tonight while the Bills were playing? Or like, it's one of those things. And so I thank you for being the first one on and just being so real and transparent and open about it. And it shows like, hey, this is a problem too. And so I thank you. Yeah, it was my honor. And so, Scorpio, you have anything else, James, to say about it?
Oh no, James, it was a pleasure meeting you, man. I love everything about your story. I think it was amazing. I'm on the same wavelength, like preacher. Like, I knew always that, alcohol was always kind of like, I grew up in my family, that alcohol was real acceptable, but I always kind of knew that alcohol was a problem. But it wasn't until I got into sobriety that I started to see like alcohol is a real underlining issue that people, don't like to talk about, because it's more like we all said it, is socially acceptable. So, everybody's like okay with it. But, sometimes, like I said earlier, you don't realize, how it could compound on other things. Kind of like how now everybody says, weed is socially acceptable. Meanwhile, weed is, just like a gateway drug, just like alcohol is. And then it compounds to other shit. Next thing you know, you go from smoking weed or drinking to, oh shit, I'm smoking crack and doing heroin the next day. So, but I loved everything about your story. I love the energy you got. It's awesome, and it was a pleasure hearing you, man. Thank you so much for being on the show, man. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Hey, it was definitely a pleasure.
Definitely.
But that is it for today, everybody. Again, thank you for James coming. If you want to drop James anything and just tell him if you felt connected, anything like that, drop it in the comments. A little like housekeeping stuff. Like we are in the process of getting some merch. So James, you're the first one to hear that. We are in the process of getting some merch. I've been putting it together the last couple of days. We have a couple that are going to come out. It's going to be This Is What Recovery Looks Like. It's going to be, This Is What Recovery Looks Like. We have Sobriety Matters. We have one is Drugs' Biggest Mistake Was Letting Me Get Addicted.
Don't tell them everything, just show them.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
It's gonna be coming out and it's gonna look hot. We'll just say that. Again, if you are listening and you have not subscribed, why? Make sure to subscribe. Hit the bell. We have a bunch of new guests coming up. It's gonna be awesome. Maybe James will be back one day. You never know. He might come for a part 2. You don't know. It might happen. And then as we just started, if you know anybody, because addiction is a huge thing, and unfortunately, not everybody gets out of addiction. And so if you know anybody who has ever lost their life because of addiction, let us know in the comments below, or send us an email. I'll have the email in the description. Send us an email, put it in the comments, so that we can start putting people's names up at the end, just as a memorial to them. Because like I said, some people don't get out. Some people aren't as lucky as me, Scorpio, and James to be able to get out and start rebuilding things. And so, and especially with this fentanyl that's going around, things like that, like, it's no joke. We may laugh and things like that, but at the end of the day, it's serious. You heard James's story, you heard my story, Scorpio's 333, and so I just want to thank everybody. Thank you again, James, for doing this. What we're doing right now is important, and there's a lot of people that need to hear these stories. And so, as you look right here, this is what recovery looks like. Boom! I'm gonna keep doing it at the end of each one. This is what recovery looks like. And so, thank you for joining us. We will see you next Friday. And I have a little something, James. You're the first one to hear this. At 100 subscribers. Right
Zero.
now, as we sit, we're at 36. Once we get to 100, we will start doing live shows.
That's right.
Nice.
So, 100, that's the goal. Once we get to 100, we'll start doing live shows, and of course, we'll drop every episode still on Friday, but we'll start doing it live whenever we record. So, let's get to 100, people. Let's do it. But I love you all. What's that?
I'll definitely be hyping it on my end for sure.
Hey, I like it. We just from the last week's episode, like as we were watching it, jumped up like 16 people. And like as we sit today, there was like 100 something views.
Yep.
Oh.
So this needs to be talked about. And so thank you again. I love you guys. And remember, love each other and love yourself most of all. So I love you guys. Peace.
Thank you.
As I said in the show, we lose people every day. It said that I think I heard a statistic, every 11 minutes we lose someone to overdose. And so a way that we here at Preacher's Corner want to acknowledge that and really remember those people is by putting their names up at the end of each show. And so we're going to have those names begin to scroll. But if you know anybody that has ever lost their life to addiction, please let us know either in the comments or drop me an email, because we really want to know so that we can remember them and who they are. And so let us know who they are. But again, thank you for watching today. We're glad you came back. Come back next week. We have an amazing guest, just as we do every week. But until then, remember to love yourselves and love each other's. Love each other. But I'll see you guys next week. Peace.